We need a catchphrase.
Okay.
Are you good? So you're gonna get one finally?
That's literally all I'm gonna say this time is okay.
Oh, really?
Good luck.
Okay, sure. All right. I guess I'll introduce us then, because I'll do that.
You're not gonna say anything to my disappointment?
Oh no, I'm glad you finally agreed with me that we're gonna finally get that catchphrase. So we'll hopefully have it by the end of the episode.
Did you get my email about this?
Yeah, I got your email about this. I started creating PowerPoints. It's over 200 slides. Yeah, it's over 200 slides right now.
You should share that with me on Google Drive.
Okay, I'll do that after the show. We don't need unfortunately, PowerPoints don't work great with podcasts.
Okay, all right.
All right. We are dumb comic book creators. Yes, we are. My name is Eric Schwartz, and I'm always with
yourself.
And
well, on the show, I'm Keegan Shiner.
Mm-hmm. And today we have special guest Brian Judge, who himself is a comic book creator.
Hey, hi, and howdy.
So, how's it going, Brian?
Doing well. Having a pretty good day so far.
Yeah. So you mostly release your comics. You're an indie artist. Release your comics on Instagram. Do you do prints as well?
Yeah. Everything, or most of what I make, I just like to make comics, and as you just said, I post a lot of them online. Of course, pre-COVID, I used to go to conventions and sell books. But a lot of what I do, I print, and I always make sure that whatever I print, that it's there's something kind of like that makes it better than what you see online. So it's sort of like whatever you see online on my Instagram, like that's just for free. But if you buy a book, it's like, hey, maybe it'll be in color, maybe it'll have like a special like extra stories to it. So I always like to kind of have that that kind of like rewarding people pretty much for buying my stuff
and for being a fan too. If they see you with your books and I can get this online. Yeah.
Shout out to like the 3 fans that I have who keep buying everything. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So how did you get into being a comic book artist?
I took one class in high school where it was sequential art was the official name for it, but really it was comic book art. And I was incredibly lucky. There's this guy, Chris Kemple. He has a series called Red Vengeance, and the coolest guy in the world. And he just teaches this class in high school. It's just pretty much how to draw comics. And I met some of my best friends through that, and I just always kind of stuck through it. So.
Was he a high school teacher of yours, or just like a guest lecturer?
Oh, he was a teacher. He taught 2 semesters of that class. So yeah, me and my 2 best friends, 2 of my closest friends, we all just kind of met in that area, and we all just can kind of continue to do comics. It's funny, he does Chris Kemple, he does Heroes Con every year. So that was kind of like a thing that we would do. We would go to Heroes Con, which is a really big convention in North Carolina. And we just always see him. It's like, oh yeah, that's our high school professor and our high school teacher. Great guy.
Cool.
So I have read 3 of your comics. Comics I've read of yours.
Can you pause? Can we pause? There's a cat on the printer. Hold on. I'm sure you can see me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, we see the cat. You've probably seen. My cat is nowhere to be found, which is scary. But
I'm so sorry.
Do that in a second.
Cats aren't professionals. Okay, go ahead, Eric.
Okay, so Brian, you were just saying that you got to at HeroesCon got to meet up with your old teacher. So you said also where I was going was 3 of your comics that I know of at least are Sex and Violence, Crime Killer, and Lonely Earth.
Yeah, I think those are the PDFs that I sent over to both of you. And those are kind of 3 of the works that I'm more kind of proud of compared to everything else.
All 3 have just in general have different storylines. There's not so much a common theme. Is that like just something you like to explore, like just different avenues, or do you?
I like to think that every book that I do, I'm testing myself in one way or another. I guess for the audience who's listening to this, the 3 books that you mentioned, Crime Killer is an over-the-top parody, while also kind of like this cathartic release that I had to mainstream comic books. specifically with superhero genre. Personally speaking, I felt like the time that I was writing it, that superhero comics were getting a little bit too stagnant, and there wasn't kind of like anything new coming out of it. And I just wanted to sit down and write a character. So I made up this guy, Crime Killer, where he has a giant Hulk hand that he beats up crime with, and just make it like the most outrageous, violent thing. Honestly, I didn't make it to look good. I didn't make it to like be like well written. I just wanted to make something, and it was kind of like one of the first things that I had people that I showed it to who said, "Hey, I like this," and that really encouraged me to kind of press on with Crime Killer. So that's kind of the story with that. I had like stories like that for a lot of my books. Sex and Violence, for example. I'm getting to this idea of doing collage work out of comics and making new stories out of existing books. I'm really interested in just making things and kind of pushing myself. So that's what I kind of say. Every book that I do, I like to do something new and different.
This is a collage, right? Of other people's work, or did you draw this?
Oh no, this is I'm I'm not good enough to copy some of these people, and not bad enough to copy other people. There's some real just bad artwork in this.
Yeah.
This is a collage. Like I was saying earlier, I'm kind of interested in this idea of structuring new stories out of existing work. So I went to a local comic book shop. I bought like 12 books, and I started cutting them up. And just kind of experimenting with this format, telling stories, because, like, why can't you do that with the comics? Just, like, put new panels together. And the main theme with the comics that I found was they all had lots of guts, lots of action, and lots of ladies. So that's kind of what I wanted to hone in on with this.
I found that, and I've done something similar for an artist book. Are you a
Yeah.
You know about artist books, yeah. So this reminded me a lot of a zine too. Did you print this sort of as a zine?
Yeah, it was first just printed on printer paper.
Okay.
This is one of the more successful things that I've done. So I've only recently been able to like actually print it. I'm like only recently get into zine culture, like maybe within the last 2 years. But I dig the whole zine side, the whole zine scene, and it's definitely like where some of my new inspirations are kind of coming from with how I put together books.
Yeah, the way that you structured this was it reminded me of a poem, basically,
It's actually the same thing too. There's that one poem technique where you can take a page like of any book and you just take away words so you should have a poem, and that's where I kind of saw it.
Yeah, a thing with this, I only just kind of remembered this just looking at this, but definitely exactly what you're talking about with poetry. If you ever read a comic, there's always like certain lines where they have this like false poetic quality, like something that sounds like it should be really important, but really it doesn't. The thing you brought up on screen, it's like this line, and the heroine becomes the huntress once again. That doesn't really like actually mean anything, like it's just sort of nonsense, but it has this like poetic value to it.
Right.
That I love. I love that about comics. I love that there's there's so much to it. And
it seems so deep at the time, when you.
But it's like it's nonsense,
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. It could be like wrestlers, like doing like their like big, like speech, like the heroine has become the huntress. And you.
Definitely, but yeah, I think that has value. That has worth. It's sort of like, this is what always kind of irritated me with comics a little bit, is that like what you consider serious, it has to be like filtered through a certain lens. Like you will never be able to have a serious conversation about Scrooge McDuck, despite the fact that Scrooge McDuck has some of the greatest like comics ever made about him. Like it's like too ridiculous of a subject matter. That's something that like also I kind of think about with my work, as that kind of idea of taking silly things seriously.
Yeah. I mean, and I grew up in a household with a large pool of money. Mm-hmm. So I always found that to be very relatable, but I could understand how the commoner would not quite understand Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
I too also, iron my money every day just to make sure it's correct. I don't want to give anybody crumpled up money. I feel guilty.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I have little duck nephews, personally. So
so obviously it's
pretty much that comic is about my life, I want to say.
Yeah.
Biographical.
No. So I wanted to ask, do you use a lot of improvisation when you're writing, or definitely for this collage?
Yeah. Well, because the collage idea, it's a more recent format. I'm still trying to figure out what my kind of process is whenever I go through that. It's funny that you mentioned dialogue, because dialogue and improvisation, that's a key thing to my work. I mean, if you look at my Instagram, you'll see that like I post like a lot of comics within days of each other. I draw something and then I figure out the story in my head first. I don't have any of the dialogue, so I'll just like draw 6 panels and I can tell you the conversation, like the flow of the conversation, but I can't tell you every word. I'm I improvise everything pretty much on the fly. So I don't plan in advance, and that's one of my biggest problems. But I'm
Do
getting
you
better.
edit afterwards?
Yes and no. For a lot of my comics, I make it easy on myself where I don't have to edit. I can just upload directly. But with stuff like Lonely Earth, I've really been taking my time with that. A lot of time with editing every piece of dialogue, every single frame. Lonely Earth is an example of me getting better at editing, I'd say. Because if you compare that, yeah, to what's like on Instagram, yeah.
Of all the stories, Lonely Earth is like the most conventional comic in that it has like a storyline that you're following through. It's kind of left in a cliffhanger where like it's not the end. It seems like it's going forward. For those that are, so that I can spoil everything for our listening audience.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, everything's online for free anyway.
Okay, so Lonely Earth, as far as I can tell, is a person comes and is trying to find signs of life on Earth, kind of like Wall-E, but a human being doing it, and actually just trying to see if there's any life whatsoever. And it ends in such a way that he's hoping to find more life, and there's a possibility of finding more life. And so, do you plan on continuing this? Is my long-winded question.
I wrote that in a period. I mean, I wrote all of Lonely Earth pretty recently, when it just sort of felt like just bleakness out in the world. When it, like all the news that we're hearing was just nothing but like horrible, horrible events after events, and this was sort of a little bit of like a personal thing with me trying to like the character, the arc that he goes on. It's about him, I'd say, rediscovering his hope for the world and kind of continuing that. So I think I'd only really continue the story if another event kind of came by that motivated me to kind of continue this character's arc. I mean, that's sort of the attitude I have with a lot of my work. So yeah, I think I don't really know if I actually plan on really continuing this character. Personally speaking, I'm satisfied with where it ends, but hey, I mean, if you want to see more, that also matters to me, and I want to satisfy every potential customer. I mean, fan base. Yeah.
I want him to find a companion. That was, that was the cliffhanger. You said it was a Lonely Earth. I guess it ends up being a Lonely Earth. So
I'm not gonna lie to you. When I first read this comic, I thought it was gonna be a Lonely Island parody, and I was severely disappointed. Because like, ooh, Lonely Earth. I bet it's gonna be on a boat or like an airplane, and then like, oh, it's actually a Lonely Earth.
Yeah, you might as well just throw the book in the trash. Kick me off your podcast while you can.
Yeah.
No, can we go through this comic a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's talk about the art. What inspired you, especially with this 4-panel, setup for this comic?
Laziness.
Okay.
The thing that I figured out from doing comics on Instagram for about as long as I've been doing them is that it's really easy to post things if they're in a nice square format, and that's what I've been doing for a lot of my more recent books. So when it comes to this, again, this was a cathartic release for myself. This was me extrapolating like how I feel about the world and trying to put out kind of a message of saying the world, it might not be a great place, but it can be a great place if we kind of work for it. At least that's the attitude I want to believe in. So when it came to the art style, I've been working a lot with ink brush because it has that really kind of like great shade. And
what's ink brush? Is that?
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
like a
I
literal
didn't.
ink brush?
Well, I've been doing this thing where I take an ink brush and I dilute it with ink wash. That's the term. Where I
Okay.
intentionally dilute an ink brush with water, so that way it'll make shades of gray. Uh, so if you see in some of the panels, they can go from like black to gray. That's all completely just me using different brushes over themselves, and
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And so this grunginess, is that kind of meant to sort of show the post-apocalyptic
Yeah,
landscape? Yeah.
yeah. It's completely supposed to be. It's just this like kind of there's like a beauty to the age to it, I think, or at least like that impression that it gives, that texture, which I thought was important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's abstract, like it's sort of like an abstract painting,
Hmm.
these backgrounds and settings. Um, okay. And you've only used one, I'm moving on to colors. You've
Hmm.
only used one color, really. Um, can you talk about the intention behind that?
Yeah. Going back to again the character, on a dead Earth, it's gray. It's this like kind of weird shades of white, a little bit of blue, but gray. This really kind of oppressive, bleak view. So it made sense for me to make the character in it for the color release, just this bright, vibrant yellow, also almost as if he shouldn't be in this world, that he's sort of like this otherworldly kind of figure. And also helps him stand out from his background a lot. So
Yeah, yeah. Reminds me of Mad Max. Um,
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I kind of saw it as Sin City almost, where like majority's gray or black and white, unless they want to like pointedly show something like that's important. So
Yeah, I love that use of a color in just having something be heavily silhouetted, but have just like one splash of color. Like it's beautiful to me.
okay, that's great. And I think there's green at the end, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
So that was refreshing, actually, this page where you have more colors and
Hmm.
like
like an actual background, and the text isn't cutting off the
Hmm.
picture, which is very aggressive, the lettering,
Hmm.
when you do that. So that was because when the text is cutting it off, it's very like it's in inhibiting what's going on in the actual scene, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, did you hand letter or are these
Uh,
digital
for
fonts?
for the Instagram comic, it's all hand lettered, and I kind of looked back at what I was doing for that and realized, man, I'm not really that good at hand lettering. So for the digital release, I went in and yeah, it's a digital typeface. I forget what the exact. I can find out like right now. I have Photoshop open on my computer. The typeface is Back Issues BB, and I
Blam,
love it.
that's
So
Blambot, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it's my favorite typeface to use whenever I'm using a typeface for my comics.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you don't know what that is, Blambot is a font font shop. You can go on there and buy comic fonts, and some of them are free for indie artists. So
um, you mentioned that you do your comments on Instagram. Any reason why you chose Instagram of all things to do your comics, or just makes a good place to any?
It's because that's what my friends told me to use. um, again, I have some friends who are also artists, and they recommended that I get on more social media. And really, I just found the fact that Instagram, what really kind of attracts me to Instagram is the fact that you can post up to 10 images. So for a lot of people, it's just like, oh, here's like a bike ride I went on. Here's like 3 pictures of like where I rode to. I kind of see that as potential. I'm really fixated on like media and mediums and the best way to tell a story and unique ways to tell a story. So when I first saw that I could do 10 images, I didn't think, hey, I can post up to 10 images. I saw, hey, I can tell a 10 panel story.
right,
So that's why I use Instagram.
that's cool. That's cool.
Cool.
I wanted to ask also, do you scan these then
Yeah,
from
I
like okay.
Everything I do, again, this is just because I'm lazy. It's not for like any reason. I do it all physical media. I don't really do digital. I edit in digital, but that's about it.
Okay. Oh, interesting. What kind of scanner do you have?
I used to, back when I was in school, I recently graduated.
Okay.
I used
Congratulations.
to,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. I got more congratulations from you guys in the school. They haven't even sent me my diploma yet, so that's fun.
Typical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who needs a diploma? Yeah, it's not like I went to school for 4 years and worked my ass off. But hey, it's all good.
They're gonna tell you, quote, I already got your money. We don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Listen, man, I'm so lucky. The school that I went to, great art program, not a great school. A lot of bad stuff. But hey, the art program is cool. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Um,
And you learned something.
yeah, I learned a lot. Man, that it's funny. You go to school for graphic design. That's what I had my BFA, and hopefully I'm gonna have a job in graphic design too. But I do comics for fun. But like, I take like metalworking classes and like letterpress and all this crazy stuff that I'm like never gonna learn or use in my life ever again. But hey, I know how to do that, so that's pretty cool.
I'm
True,
actually waiting for you to do metalworking comics. So when we see that,
Oh
I'll
man,
be
I'm
really impressed.
You might
I'm
end up
just
doing that.
waiting.
You never know. You might end up using that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have all the tools. It's
You're
just
already using collage quite a bit, and that could just be the next evolution.
yeah, no, I wanna try experimenting with stuff like that, like getting really multimedia. The problem with metal though is that like, well, first of all, it's expensive, so already I'm never gonna do it. But it's just you need like a lot of materials and a lot of stuff to work with. So
Also hard to mass produce to sell comics of metal. You can't be
You
like, here's your
Yeah.
comic of my metal comics. Here's yours.
You should
the only
apply
way I can do that is I have to sell for like $50 each.
Yeah.
apply for a grant,
Yeah.
or when you get into the biennial
hmm
at in Italy, then you can put on your giant metal comic wall. Yeah.
I mean, I would love to do that just to like have one of those. Just like have. I've been thinking about like taking some of the comics that I have, the original artwork, and making books out of them for like Lonely Earth, and just like having like one book with all the original artwork.
Yeah,
Um,
like an anthology. Yeah.
yeah,
I know
just for like like my own like use.
a lot of graphic novels will do that too. Like where afterwards they'll go back and do concept art.
Yeah. Oh, I love
I
stuff
know.
like that. Yeah.
I know Witch Doctor, for example, does that a lot. Where he actually had the art before he made the comic because the person he was working, he had an artist he wanted to work with, and so they got the concept art first, and then he's like, all right, he does similar what you do. We have these artworks. I want to make a copy of them, so he connected them that way. So he kind of similar to you.
hmm Yeah, I'm a big fan of concept art books in general. I have I have a little bit too many. I have more concept art books than I have actually read. So
So let me ask you, these are a little bit shorter than maybe like a full, I don't know, graphic novel. Do you have any future ambitions to make a longer work, or are you kind of happy in the shorter form?
I'll put it like this: everything that I've been doing has been progressively getting bigger and bigger. The first crime killer story I did is sort of like, I mean, I did comics previous to that, but that's kind of like the first crime killer story I did is sort of like the first point I was like, hey, I made something that I'm kind of proud of that I can look to and say, hey, this is cool, and then I'd share people. That comic is only 10 panels long. That's like a page and a half. Compare that to Lonely Earth, which is like 4 panels in each page and is like around like 20 pages. I mean, you can see that like I'm getting more pages. So one of these days, I'd like to make something that is full graphic novel length. But for right now, I'm comfortable with just doing short stories and just continuing to expand them.
And have you ever worked with a writer?
You know what? Not really. I always find that like collaboration projects don't end well. Ironically, Lonely Earth is a collaboration between me and friends. I had people help me edit it, edit the writing, overlook the artwork,
Oh,
etc.,
wow.
etc.
Nice.
Shout out to Jurassic Jasek, who did a backup story in it. That guy's awesome.
Oh yeah, down here. Yeah, these are
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh man, that guy's so much better than me. You should have him talk instead of me.
No, not true.
Oh no, it's okay. That guy, like, I love his stuff. He's great. Wonderful guy. But yeah, collaborations are always difficult. It's also hard because I have a very oddly specific type of story I want to tell, where people get like kicked and punched and pee on each other. That's the ideal Brian Judge story. Getting like kicked in a McDonald's parking lot or something. That's my story. And it's hard to find people who like want to help tell that story.
Did you ever see Korgoth of Barbaria?
Yeah.
A lot of your stuff, like specifically not this one, but the your crime killer one, was very much reminiscent of that, where the guy literally just kills everything in like one shot. Everything's bloody and stuff like that too. So
yeah,
that's where I got that.
I love just good action and just like this relentless sort of like feeling of like a world where there's nothing but like pain in a character who like doesn't care about anything and is just angry. So something about that I love this like this sort of, well, it's like this weird thing with like Batman, where like whenever people talk about Batman, they always talk about the good things that he does, like, oh, he saves Gotham, he's this, he's that. I kind of hate Batman personally. I have like a lot of problems with Batman. First and foremost, okay, just small rant. DC and all their movies and all their games, and their comics, they can't get away from Batman. Okay, like,
it's the only thing that sells.
Yeah.
Okay, but this, it's so crazy. Think about it like this, all right? Right now, even in like whatever DC movie they're making right now, almost every single one of them have Batman or Batman characters. You have like Batman v Superman, you have Suicide Squad, which has Batman, you have Joker, you have like a Harley Quinn movie, but like the second you get outside of that, everything fails.
Everything fails.
And it's like, oh yeah, because everyone's obsessed with
Everyone loved Green Lantern, but I'm the only one out there.
I do like Green Lantern.
Yeah, we all like Green Lantern.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like the problem of like Marvel before Avengers. Marvel was most famous for like Spider-Man, but they had to put a lot of time into like building new IPs. Like no one really cared about Iron Man before the movie. I don't think that DC has realized yet that no one's going to care about the Flash until, or no, Flash isn't a good example since people like the CW show.
And Wonder Woman had a very successful movie too.
Yeah, but like even with that, like Batman is still. Yeah, like it's
He's
this weird
in the
thing.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Batman is in. Why is Batman in Wonder Woman? Like, why does?
I think they're trying to connect them too fast. You know, they didn't have that discovery period where Samuel L. Jackson shows up and says, "You're in the rest of the movies now."
Well, it's interesting because even Man of Steel is inspired by Batman because it was written by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was written by Nolan, and it's like heavily inspired by the Dark Knight aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And the themes of that. It's like even from the very beginning, like Batman had his bat palms all over everything.
Right.
It's like, again, this is like like Batman's cool and all. My problem is he has way too much exposure. Man, how are we going to talking about this?
You made a comic kind of making fun of Batman. So.
Yeah.
Well, because also though is like Batman. Like I could seriously see Batman if he was a little bit like less serious and going like, "Oh my God, Joker's getting away." He's like, "I have a feeling I'll see him every single week."
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it's like, I mean, they're the jokes we all like know about. Like, Batman, how come you don't kill people? Oh, because killing one more person means there's still the same amount of killers in the world. It's like, yeah, but like the Joker like kills 15 people a week. Like there's no like, I don't know. I mean,
he's just OCD about it, right?
Yeah,
like at this point, it's just a mental health issue.
Completely, and that's like the best Batman comics, if you ask me, are the ones that embrace the fact he's a crazy person. I mean, if you look at it's the thing with like Dark Knight Returns, fantastic book, like one of the best comics probably ever made. I don't like it's in top 100. But like that book is all about how Batman has gone completely delusional and is an old man and like slowly dying, and how he like is scared about the world around him changing. Like he's just a ranting, raving lunatic for a lot of it.
Yeah, I read that book a lot, actually. I like that book.
Great book, fantastic book.
Yeah, I like the panel work in that,
Oh
especially.
yeah.
Like,
That's when Miller is like at his best.
Pete Holmes probably made my favorite parody about Batman, where he does the one where like with Patton Oswalt where he's a Joker, and like he doesn't realize he's just killing everybody. Because like you think about it, Batman like breaks a guy's arm, breaks a guy's collarbone, and he's like, "You'll live, so you're good." But realistically, he just like paralyzed 18 guys for life for like trying to rob a candy store.
Yeah,
And he's like, so yeah, no, I understand you're frustrated with Batman. He's like, I won't kill you. I'll just maim you and wish you were dead.
and then he goes back to the Batcave and flips the lights 3 times.
And I guess that's where Crime Killer comes in. Crime Killer is the character who embraces the fact that he's, paralyzing those guys. He's Batman where Batman actually gets to be sort of who he always was, I guess.
Yeah, without the subtext.
Right? Yeah.
it whereas like the Tick, it kind of like represents of the Tick too, where like you took a step back. You're like, let's take a step back at these guys and look at them. The Tick kind of went comical, more farcical. Whereas like his costume is literally like he's still the Tick costume, just puts on glasses. Actually, this is a normal human being. This one's like, well, what happens? They're just like, you're a crime. I'm just gonna fucking deal with this. He just kills the guy.
Yeah. Well, Brian, it's been great having you on.
Yeah. It's been great talking to you guys.
Anything planned for the future, Brian? Like that, like besides like any shameless plugs you want to give us?
Yeah, I have I guess 2 shameless plugs. The first of all is if you liked anything that you've been hearing, check out both my Instagram, One and Only Comics with underscores instead of spaces, and also I have an online shop which is oneandonlycomics.bigcartel.com. And the other shameless plug is that right now I'm doing a comic about Pokemon because I have given up with this world and I just want to be popular like all the cool kids, and all the cool kids talk about Pokemon, so I guess that's what I'm making comics about.
Are they murdering each other?
So yeah, I have a weird, oppressive, dark, cynical look at the future with Pokemon. It's called Capsule Creatures.
I'm just glad Pokeballs never worked with human beings. You know how many kidnappings there would be?
Yeah.
What's it called again?
It's called Capsule Creatures.
Okay. And that's on your Instagram?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Great.
All right. Well, it was nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming on. We had a great time. I think I learned something. Did you, Eric?
I learned several things.
All right.
Well, hey, we're all learning.
My hatred of Batman is now one of them. Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thanks again. Have a good one.
All right.
You too.
Okay, so Eric, how is your script going for The Dealmaker?
Good news. I'm ahead of schedule from 2024 till I finish it this week.
You finished it already?
I finished it already. It is by definition the very bare bones and needs to get re-edited. Like, it's not something I'm comfortable turning in, but all my ideas are on the paper. I just have to go through and add more stuff to it.
Well, how do you feel? Do you feel accomplished, like you've made it through something difficult?
Oh, extremely so.
Do you think the easy part is behind you or the hard part?
I think the easy part's behind me.
Oh, okay. Well,
because the hard part's going to be going through and making it decent. Because right now it's that naughty word.
it's shit. Yeah.
And so once I do that, it should be good.
Okay. Well, that's great. So your next step is editing?
Yep. I have to edit it.
Start looking for artists as well?
I can start doing that too. I'm not going to kill myself with that just yet because I want to make sure that I can get artists that are comfortable with my work, not that I have to find artists that can work with me.
Right. So you need to have a finished script for them to read that you're comfortable with showing people. That makes sense. So you're back to editing this week, and next week maybe you'll have something that's ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully. Knock on wood.
All right.
I mean, I still till 2028 to finish it, so it's not like I'm in a rush.
Okay. All right. Well, I have updates. What?
I said, mm-hmm. I was agreeing. You do have updates.
I thought you were going to ask me.
I'm going to ask you now, hey, what are your updates? What is your updates, Keegan?
All right, let's start that over and do a
No. Let's keep it as is. Keep it as is. It's perfect.
It's not perfect. It was terrible.
Gee willikers, Keegan. Do you got some updates for me?
Oh my God. All right.
Hey, Keegan. I heard something on the grapevine. You want to know what it is?
What?
You got updates for me on your colorings.
I'm hurt on the inside. I'm hurt right now. This is so terrible.
No, this is brilliant. Let them hear my work.
Okay. So I am working on a comic called Death Maze, and issue number 1 is 90% finished. I'm actually planning on releasing it next Friday, which will be the Friday that you probably hear this episode.
So today, you'll hear it today.
Today, it should be out today when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Or in the future, it's already out.
So we're going to pause for a second so you can go buy, download, and read it, and then we'll continue on.
But we didn't tell them where to find it.
Oh, where do we find it?
It's going to be on our Patreon. I'm publishing these to our Patreon. It's $1 to sign up to be a patron. All you do is you sign up to be a patron. You only pay for the comics that we finish. So if you sign up for $1, you'll pay $1 for every comic that we finish. All the other updates and content that we put up there, like rough sketches, scripts, character designs, interactions with artists that we've hired and stuff like that, that's not ending up on our website yet. Also videos of this podcast you can find on our Patreon. If you're a patron, you get to see that stuff, and you only pay for the comics that we produce. Does that sound fair, Eric?
That sounds very fair.
Is that something I might be able to interest you in?
Oh, ho, ho, a Martin Landau quote. I'm impressed.
Martin Landau was your uncle.
Yes.
And he was amazing on Entourage, I have to say.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
So that's the deal. So right now, you can go on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/dumbcomiccreators, and read this comic. It's Death Maze #1. But for this episode, we're talking about the coloring. So I went out and I hired 3 colorists to do issue 1. And I thought you and I, Eric, could look at these and maybe pick one.
All right, let's go. Let's go for it.
Okay. So this is #1.
You know what's great podcast material? Visual images.
I'm editing
we will describe. Yeah, I know. I couldn't resist.
It can be.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. All right.
So if you're listening along and you want to see these images, again, the Patreon will have these pictures, all of them, all the different versions of this comic will be on our Patreon. So if you're listening along and you want to follow along, you can watch a video of us discuss this, and you can look at the images if you're out and about. So this is Colorist #1. You can see it's a kind of a cartoony style.
It's reminiscent of the '90s X-Men comics, cartoon style, where that the colors aren't like bold or crazy. It's kind of straightforward. They're solid. They're not dull. They're grayed.
It's very saturated.
Yeah, like every single part is filled with color. Even like the black part is color.
Yeah. So and this is page 2. And I can zoom in a little.
Yeah,
too.
I'm looking at it. Just it's done well in that the characters that are supposed to be at the forefront are at the front. The characters in the background are done well. Also, the shading's done very, very well too with the color scheme. There's a yellow to black, and it fades well from one into the other.
Yeah, it does. It's a nice gradient. And what I like here is that you can really tell what's going on in this comic. You'll see in the other ones, you can't, some of the realistic color makes it harder to kind of, for your eye to follow. And even though this one doesn't have the most realistic colors and it's a little bit, it's like fully saturated and not very artsy, I think that it does a good job of telling the story, which I like.
So this one actually is reminiscent of what's that Pixar film about the superheroes? Like the family, like they all have superhero powers.
Oh, The Incredibles.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of The Incredibles to me.
Yeah. Because everything is very saturated.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's artist number 1. What out of 10 would you give that right now?
I give it a solid 8. Probably maybe an 8.5.
8.5. Wow.
Not something that blows myself out of the water, but something that like I would be comfortable and happy to read with.
Okay, all right. So that's artist 1. Here is artist number 2.
This one's more reminiscent of the Dark Knight. It's all the colors tend to kind of scheme more similar to each other. Honestly, I'm not as big fan of it. It's less sunny. I don't know if it's reminiscent of the story tone better. You would know that better than me. But like everything seems to be more gray, dark, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I would say it's washed out a bit. It's not saturated. There's only 1 or 2 spots where you can see like full color. And the rest of it is kind of grayed out colors. Another thing I don't like, this is the version 1 of this, but he didn't do the orange slime, which is in the script, which this artist did very well. Only because it's so saturated. But like there's supposed to be orange slime that makes this hero turn like really miniature, and then he basically gets eaten by a snake.
Yeah, I would not realize that slime. Looking at this, it looks like garbage mud.
Yeah, it's just water. It's just normal water. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So.
Also, like just the character, like the previous saturated. This one is much more like the characters seem to be all wearing the same outfit. It's not.
Yeah, that's something I definitely don't like too. I'm not a fan of. I mean, this is kind of interesting with the light from the trees and the leaves kind of like getting through.
Yeah, that part actually looks really
like as kind of cool.
As a standalone, the top center panel is fantastic looking. Like it would be like something you put like as a cover of the comic.
Yeah,
but
true.
The rest just doesn't hold up.
Actually, that could be a good cover for the comic. I'll keep that in mind. But yeah, so the differences here, I think also the storytelling isn't as solid with the water here, and like it's just kind of a gradient.
The only problem like I find with this one, because I thought that was fire. If you not this one, but the previous one, the slime they said was orange.
Oh, fire! Yeah.
I thought that was fire. Actually, I didn't realize that was slime.
Oh, it's almost too much slime. All right, so let's re-rate these now. What do you give the first one out of 10, comparing it to the second one?
So I still think the first one's better, but okay. I'm gonna lower the score from 8.5 to 8.
Okay.
I don't like it because I thought that was fire. The guy was like, getting hit with fire. And I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah, okay.
But now that like slime that doesn't look like slime to me, that looks like fire.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. So, and then the second one out of 10?
7.25.
7.
Yeah, I saw. It's up to 7.5. 7 to that top center panel, and 0.5 to everything else.
Yeah. And even though I kind of like these reds and blues and like kind of the tone of these panels, it really clashes with this yellow and like the rest of this comic. Has like almost no color, which is sort of annoying, and they're basically wearing the same shade outfits, which again kind of comes to me trusting the artist to kind of use their intuition, and maybe I could have been more specific in the script about that, but kind of the concept behind these Death Maze comics is to let the artists kind of use their imagination and truly collaborate. So I kind of left it up to them just to see what it's like to work with somebody who's kind of acting on their own and see what they do, which is why this is kind of a fun exercise, just looking at 3 different people's work. Okay, so artist number 3 is here. And
He looks like a leprechaun. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. Okay, but get past like where you've seen this before and go back to that place where you hadn't seen this. I think one thing I like about this is the sewer water is brown.
The
now.
sewer water looks like sewer water, actually.
Yeah,
so that works well.
And here's page 2.
And the slime looks like slime, which is really good.
Yeah.
Only problem is if we go back to the previous one, everything there's all like shaded green, like they're just different shades of green. So everything tends to blend together. It's the only problem I dislike.
Yeah, it's a very green page.
It's very, and like everything is earth tones, which is kind of cool. Like the green's earth tone, the water, which is blue, is earth tone, the mud is brown earth tone.
Right.
Which is kind of nice. And then the slime, I think, is done. I think this guy nails the slime the best of everyone.
The slime, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the slime, it looks really good. It's glowing.
Yeah. And like it looks, and it's not something I would mistake as the same thing for the mud. And specifically the part where he starts shrinking down.
Yeah.
That panel, you can tell where the mud begins, or the mud ends, and the slime begins, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. So that is nice. So out of 10, how about this one?
I would go this one actually like this. So this one, the one with the slime, I would give an 8.5. The previous page, I would give a 6.5.
A 6 point. This one a 6.5?
No, so this part 6.5 right here.
Oh, okay. Because everything is green.
Everything's green. Everything looks so like just nothing stands out. Like
okay. And then, but the second page you like.
The second page I really liked. I thought it was really done well. I thought the characters on top looked distinct and like separate from everything else.
They're also following the script better because one of the characters is a black man, and the other one is Hispanic, and you'll notice in these other 2 versions.
I would not have known that they were Hispanic and black.
Yeah.
One guy's like either both black or both white.
Yeah. So that's one thing this artist did really well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you like page 2, let's talk about and so out of 10, like which of these 3 artists would you choose? If
I had to choose like just the one, I would probably still go with the first one, just because that's the one that just, for lack of a better word, is most comic booky.
Yeah.
And then if like I were to go with a second choice, it would be the third artist, and I think I would skip.
And if you went with the third artist, but the suit color was changed, it was a little less green on this page.
I would go with the third one.
That would put you over?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something to note is have your friends look at it, have your friends and colleagues take a look at the color, and go back to the artist and change what needs to be changed. It's not going to be a big hard deal to change the color of the super suit in this comic, so I'll probably do that, and then this will be the top choice.
Yeah, because I think he does the best with everything.
It's actually this is Cassandra Grob.
Well, tell her I really liked her art sans suits.
I will, yeah. So see the full comic on our Patreon, Death Maze number 1.
For how much again?
$1 if you want to be generous. If you want to be generous, and I know some people don't. It's a tough time right now. So no need to be generous, but if you wanted to be generous, $3.
Whoa.
And then if you wanted to give from the bottom of your heart, $8
Whoa.
for a comic. It's only 2 pages. So $1 seems reasonable.
And $1 seems like a great deal.
But $8. That's
$8 seems like a
that's
better
helping
deal.
me. That's a value meal.
Hey.
That's feeding me. So Eric, did you read anything?
I read Witch Doctor. Ooh.
By who?
By Brandon Seifert and Lucas Kettner. It was the illustrator.
Okay. What's it about?
It is kind of a throwback to like old school horror, like think like 70, 80, like the 80s and stuff like that, where they would do stuff like that. It was the one, if you remember when we were talking about with Brian earlier, I mentioned it quickly. It's one where the artist actually like he kind of had like a general concept of what he wanted to do, but he wasn't sure where he was going to go, and so he was waiting for the artist he was working with. They were both baristas at Starbucks, and that's how they met.
Oh, cool.
And he wanted, like, he was saying, like, hey, I need something that's kind of more reminiscent of old school, like, you know, comics or whatever, or like old school, like, monsters. And they asked him to draw, like, a werewolf, like a vampire, like, put, like, a new, like, version of that.
Yeah.
And so he did a vampire that is based on a lamprey.
Based on a lamprey?
A lamprey. You know, like those, like, weird, like, worm creatures?
Yeah.
So that's actually a vampire right there that you're looking at in this artwork here.
Oh, cool.
So like it's like so like the vampire is like it was a parasite was the point.
Yeah.
And so like it lived within the creature. So once he had that, he decided to do that too. So it follows the top doctor on those creatures, and he is such a good job that he's allowed to wield Excalibur, you know, the sword from King Arthur, which is the only known thing that actually hurts vampires.
Cool. So what about the art?
The art is fantastic. Like it's why I actually picked it up originally was it's all dull grays, like you know, kind of classic horror stuff, but it's extremely detailed to the point that even the backgrounds have like a lot of times they'll have like clear artworks. Like this one, for example, like there's the paperwork strewn everywhere and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And stuff like that too. Storyline wise, it's very much episodic for a while, where like it's going from one person to another. It wasn't until the second volume that they actually like start like having an overarching story, but they never produced a third volume, so I don't know how it went.
So there's only 2 volumes.
Yep.
Okay. But back to the art. So it's a very detailed style. Is it realistic looking?
No, it's not. It's kind of like Cthulhu-based artwork, stuff like that.
Okay.
It's purposely designed not to be that. It's kind of again a throwback to like the classic '80s style.
Yeah.
If you saw the original Hellraiser, it's reminiscent of when the main character's brother comes back to life.
Okay. What about colors? Who did the colors?
I believe it was also done by Lucas Kettner.
Okay. And what do they look like?
They're all like versions of red. I'm not like a huge fan of the colors. They're all like just like everything pretty much is red or like slight greens or whatever.
Oh.
Everything has a red tint.
Oh, okay. How does that impact the story?
It kind of gives it a good flavor because everything's about blood. You know, they're doing a lot of stuff with vampires and demons and stuff, which is why like purposely they went with red.
So it fits that stylistic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
And because he's a doctor, he always wears white, so it kind of stands out against it, which is really cool. Because usually, like, for example, Brian's artwork for the Last Earth, what was it?
Brian Judge. Lonely Earth, yeah.
Lonely Earth. The main character was yellow, and everything else is white. In this case, everything else is red, but the main character is white. So it's kind of the inverse of that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. Mm-hmm. So the je ne sais quoi?
It's pretty much all je ne sais quoi. That's French, by the way. Where like, because again, it's very episodic.
Hold on. Why do you always say that's French, by the way?
Because it is. I'm not lying. Hey, viewers
every-
out there, listeners out there, tell me if I'm wrong. Je ne sais quoi? Is it not French?
I think everyone knows it's French.
Oh, okay.
You always say it. That's French, by the way.
By the way, it's French.
Yeah. Okay. It is French.
Okay,
So just
fine.
let it be French. Continue.
Okay. So
What about this je ne sais quoi?
that's French, by the way.
All right. There's no winning with you.
It's French.
It is. So what?
So it's all about the je ne sais quoi about this. Because again, I liked it more than I probably should have. Because again, because there's just a lot of just kind of like great atmosphere going on. Storyline not so much, but it's
Okay.
just
So it's fun. It's like a fun book. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not gonna make you think or.
I'm not gonna do it too. So here's probably this part where he deals with an alien like a demon parasite that's in the form of a baby, and he's literally shaking the baby and doing the song "Hey Yeah" from it,
Okay.
He shake it like a Polaroid picture.
Oh,
He does
right.
that. He grabs a baby and does that.
Who's that? Outcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andre 3000 Big Boy Outcast.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So, but you liked it.
I liked it.
So on a scale between earthworms that have crawled onto your driveway and are now crusty little, they look like onion rings.
Yeah, they flatten out and they dry it out. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and a basketball perfectly swooshing through a net. What do you give this comic?
I give this Shaquille O'Neal free throws above 50%. And if he had decided to throw an underhand or do something different, he could have done better.
Classic Shaq or like a Lakers Shaq?
Let's go classic Shaq. Let's go.
Oh, it's not very good then.
I thought classic Shaq was when he was good.
I thought he was pretty bad at free throws at the time.
Oh, he was always bad at free throws. He averaged 55% or whatever.
Pretty sure he got better in the Lakers, didn't he?
I don't know. Maybe.
Phil Jackson.
Doesn't mean I don't know how much Phil Jackson teaches free throws.
Well, I think he would have drilled them in.
Yeah. But no, Phil Jackson. Anyways, so let's we'll go with Lakers.
So it's missing something.
It's missing something.
Okay.
But it's above average. I give it above 50% because Shaq was above 50% the free throw line, but he wasn't that much above 50%.
Yeah, not really. No.
Yeah. He wasn't Dennis Rodman bad at free throws, at least.
Oh, that's good. So I brought a comic too. It's Deadly Class by yeah. Have you read this one?
I have read that one. I actually also saw the TV show.
It's Rick Remender, Wes Craig, and Lee Loridge.
Mm-hmm.
So Wes Craig is the artist. Oh, they're both artists. Writer, artist. Oh, Wes Craig is the artist. Lee Loridge is the colorist. So this comic is about an orphan, and he joins an assassin school, and then they take a road trip. So, and it's highly stylized. I think I'm ready to get into the story.
I really liked it. It's also a TV show for one season, which I thought was really good TV show as well.
Yeah, the cover that I have for this book is the TV show. Mm-hmm. But let me talk about the story. So the story was confusing to begin with, and follows an internal monologue for this main character that doesn't make much sense. And then once he gets recruited into the Assassin Academy for what seems like no reason at all, he acts like he's been in school before, and then they decide to take a road trip after he gets in trouble. So that's kind of the story.
So not much of a story.
I didn't think so. Like any story that takes place with a road trip is going to be a bad story to me. I
So
don't know.
what's your view on the movie Road Tripping?
Horrible movie. A road trip is a time in your life when nothing else is happening and you could go on a road trip. Don't make your stories about road trips. Honestly, the characters were very stereotypical. But on the flip side of that, I think that the style of the book was really strong. So the story kind of fits the style in that there's not much substance, but it's cool. Everything sounds cool in this book. Whether or not it is another thing. Okay, but going on to the art is minimalistic, I think, and realistic a bit with some exaggeration, but not too much. I liked how diverse the cast is of the comic book, which you don't see a lot of diversity in comic books. So this had like a nice, well diversified cast of characters, and that was a refreshing part of the book.
All right, I'm gonna throw a French term at you.
Not quite there.
Not quite there.
Gotta go for the colors first.
Okay, go for the colors first.
Yeah, flipping through the book with the colors, you'll notice that each section sort of has its own color scheme. And what's really interesting about the colors is that none of the pages are really done realistically. You'll notice that very few pages have colors on every single surface. Here's an example page where it's been done in complete yellow, basically.
Yeah.
In shades of yellow. And then on the page next to it, it's been done in blue, in shades of blue. And there's one or two other colors, but they're not taking away from that blue tint. And this is an old school film trick back before film had color. They would put color slides on the film to give it a tone. Old German films used to do this.
It reminds me of the movie Samurai Fiction, where it was in black and white, but whenever they wanted to show something big or deal, they would splash colors like red or black, or not, or red or blue.
Yeah. So the colors are really, really interesting in this book because they show an emotional tone, I think. Mm-hmm. And they're part of the reason that this book is cool to look at, because it's so stylized because of the color, I think. All right, and then the lettering is not too, it fits perfectly with the art style. It's kind of small, but it's readable. And the sound effects are fun to look at. They fit into the scenes, but they can get louder.
Can you make some of the sound effects?
Ha ha ha. Ah. You jerk. Okay. Okay, I'm ready for the French term.
Okay, there's a French term I'm going to throw at you. It's called je ne sais quoi.
That's French.
That's French, yeah. Good job.
Oh, yeah. So I think what sets this apart is to me, what made me keep reading this was the art style. Mm-hmm. And the stylized colors. Because I wasn't very invested in the story because it was a lot of violence and
a road trip.
Yeah, and a road trip. But what was cool was how detailed and kind of fun the art is in this book. And that I liked, and I really liked the color scheme too. So I kept reading it for that.
Okay. So on a scale between a road trip across the United States and then up to Canada and down to Mexico, to Bill Jackson being your godfather, how would you rank this?
Which one's the bad one?
I don't know.
The bad? I guess a road trip's pretty long and miserable.
You just said you hate road trips, so...
I hate road trip movies and stories.
Okay, fine. being forced to watch the movie Road Trip on loop for 36 hours straight versus
Phil Jackson's Godfather.
Or Phil Jackson's your God is your Tooth Fairy and Godfather.
Oh, and Tooth. Well, I don't know if I want Phil Jackson creeping into my room if I lose a tooth.
Okay, fine. Phil Jackson will write you very strongly nice letters whenever you want about whatever you want.
Okay, yeah, he's a great motivator. So
Yeah.
I have to go. So that is the prize. That is a top prize right there.
Yeah.
I would have to say that this book is basically like taking a bus trip downtown to go get ice cream when there's an ice cream shop right down your street.
So it's something you can do, just not really worth it.
Yeah. And also it's, I mean, you'd have to have the motivation. So I'm trying to slip that in still a little bit.
The motivation?
From Phil Jackson.
Yeah. Phil Jackson's great at motivating people.
Yeah. I mean, you'd also see some sights if you went downtown. So
sure.
I guess I'm with you. It's, it was like 50% for me. It's interesting concept. I thought it was it wasn't like that great. So.
Yeah. So if you want some great artwork, read Deadly Class or Witch Doctor.
Yeah.
You want some great stories, go elsewhere.
Right, exactly. Or, it might pick up in later volumes. This is just volume 1, and I know they kept going. So.
Witch Doctor, again, picks up in volume 2. Problem being, they dropped the ball, literally, by stop writing.
Well, they ran out of ideas.
Yeah. They should have spent more time in French class.
I guess so, because we know French.
We know a phrase in French.
Yes, we do.
Je ne sais quoi.
That's French right there.
Yeah, it's French right there.
All right, Eric. Well, this has been a good podcast. Podcast number 6.
Podcast number 6 in the bag.
Just a reminder to everybody, support us on Patreon. We are at patreon.com/dumbcomiccreators.
Also, thank you again to Brian Judge for being our guest and showing us some great comics.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Also, we do need a catchphrase, though.
Yeah, I sent you an email about this. I told
you I was working at the PowerPoint, so we're moving slides.
Okay, so maybe next week we'll find one.
Yeah, we'll find one. It'll come to us.
Yeah. Or you can present your PowerPoint next episode.
Yeah, I don't have a screen to show it on, though, so it's a problem.
Okay, well, next episode we're going to have colorist and comic book artist Cassandra Grab on to talk about her journey starting into comic books. She's crossing over from being a professional illustrator, so that's kind of fun. Yeah. And we're going to talk about your script again.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about the release of Death Maze number 1, which will be on Patreon today when you're listening to this right now. Just go on our Patreon and buy a comic and support local artists and whatnot. Also, you can find us on Instagram, Dumb Comic Creators. And Facebook, Dumb Comic Creators. And our website, dumbcomiccreators.com. Email us, dumbcomiccreators@gmail.com. I think that's as many times as I'm going to say Dumb Comic Creators on this episode.
What's the name of our show again?
Dang it.
All right, Eric Schwartz of Dumb Comic Creators.
You jerk. Is joined by
Keegan Shiner of...
Oh, man. Dumb Comic Creators. You got me to say it again.
Yeah, I'm so powerful.
All right, see you later, man.
See ya.